Go around the badger.
Hey everyone, it is the Honey Badger here, and it is time for a build and guide for Talon. Now, at the beginning of the season, Talon was really strong, contested quite a bit. He's received one or maybe two nerfs since that's happened, but he's still in a good spot. They really didn't mess with his numbers too bad. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit. But what we will be going over, of course, are his items that you want to build. We're going to cover, of course, his abilities and the maxing order of those. And we'll go over his runes and his masteries and some gameplay tips and all that fun stuff. So, to kick things off, let's take a look at those runes and masteries so we can get those out of the way. They are on the screen now. Take a close look at those. And pause this if you need to open League and put these in at the moment if you need to do that. And now let's get rid of them. So the next thing we need to talk about to understand Talon as a champion a little bit is his abilities. So let's go over those. So starting off with his passive, this is Mercy. Talon deals 10% additional damage with his auto attacks to any target that is slowed, stunned, immobilized, or suppressed. So this is really good to use this in combination with your Rake, which is what we put a point in at level 1, since your Rake will slow your targets, so you can get some extra auto attacks off and deal that extra damage because of your passive. We hit level 6, we're just going to go ahead and jump on Karthus, pretty much use the whole wombo combo of things and kill him. Karthus is squishy, but he can always try to do this to us from the afterlife, and that does tickle, to say the least, but we're going to address that right away in this game because we're up against an AP mid laner by going Hex Drinker, which we'll get first. But let's go back to those abilities. So like I said, we put Rake pointing to that at level 1. What happens there, of course, is you're going to send your all of those volley of daggers out that will return to you. They deal damage on the way out and on the way back in. They will also slow your target for a percentage for 2 seconds. And that's a good time, like I said, to use that time to get some damage dealt from your passive, if you can. At level 2, typically put a point into Cutthroat, maybe into your Q, depending on the situation, of course, though. But Cutthroat, Talon instantly appears behind his target, applying a 99% slow to them for 0.25 seconds, for a brief second, and amplify your damage against the target by a percent for 3 seconds. Pretty good to amplify your damage against them. Of course, it's very smart to do that, and you can combo this obviously with that Rake, or they are slowed and you can pound them in the face to get your more passive damage off. So that is really good. We're going to max that out last. We max our Rake out first, and then at level 3 to 4, we put a point into Noxian Diplomacy, which is, of course, his Q. Your next auto attack will deal additional physical damage. If the target is a champion, it will bleed over the next 6 seconds and reveal their location for that duration. And we're going to max this out second. It's a good damage dealer. It's good to follow this up right after you jump on their face with Cutthroat and Rake them, and then auto them to death. And if you want to ult, you can do that too if your ult's up, which is Shadow Assault. Talon disperses a ring of blades outwards and gains stealth for up to 2.5 seconds and 40% movement speed. When you emerge from your stealth, the blades converge on your location. Each time the blade passes through an enemy, it will deal damage. Each enemy can only be damaged once at the start of the ability and once at the end, though. This is what we're going to use to completely jump on him over and over like we just did again. Every single time Talon has his ult up, I strongly believe you either need to roam to go get some kills, or you need to be jumping on the mid laner's face to get them to blow cooldowns, whether it's their flash, or if they're taking healer barrier, or if they need to go back and they need to teleport back in, if they took TP. Talon, one of the nerfs he recently got was they nerfed the cooldown on Shadow Assault. Nowadays, it's currently at a 100-second cooldown at rank 1, followed by 80 at rank 2 and 60 seconds at rank 3. Back in the day, it used to be like, don't quote me, but like 80, 70, 60. It was just 20 seconds shorter. So it was up almost immediately when you came back to lane from killing an enemy champion. So at like rank 6, you could just come back to lane and kill people over and over and over, or at least force them back in a bad situation where they would essentially lose levels because your ult was up so often. And even when they have the time to finally, back, buy, and run all the way back to lane, by that time, that's been about a minute, your ult would already be back up. And that made him too strong. He could snowball a little bit too fast. The person could just lose so many levels by you jumping on them constantly that it was difficult for them to find a way back into the game. So now with the nerf at the earlier levels, it is a little bit easier for people to get away with you not jumping on them all of the time. Now, of course, it's still not crazy, the cooldown. 100 seconds is 100 seconds, but with a little CDR, which is always built into Talon's build, you're going to be in a fine position, honestly, to continue to jump on people's faces. I wasn't looking while the recording was going, but when I came back to lane after that first time I killed him at level 6, maybe 30 seconds left on your ult. That's not a long time to wait to then essentially all-in someone again, because your ult's going to be up way before your Ignite's back up to maybe try to do the same thing. You won't have Ignite for the second time, but for the most part, you really don't need Ignite as long as you're landing auto attacks on targets that are slowed. So we're going to get a little fight with the J4. We're just going to go all in on him. We're both pretty damage focused, but I think I can win the fight. He does a lot. No arguments there when we're both full damage, but we're going to be able to kill him off. And let's continue to talk about our items. Now, during this game, this was literally the day before, like, Maw got nerfed. So unfortunately, Maw did get nerfed. But I think Maw is still a good item on Talon, but it's probably an item you'll never completely rush and finish first. I did, though, because I'm up against specifically a Karthus. And having the Hex Drinker passive built into the Maw is very, very, very good to have against Karthus. Like, hella good. And they also have a Zyra and a Lulu. Or no, we have the Zyra, sorry. They have the Lulu. So they also have some more magic damage on their team. And they have a couple ADs, of course, too. But for the most part, having some magic resist, not a terrible thing against this team, to say the least. Especially, once again, against that Karthus. Now, if you needed to build or if you wanted to build a Mercurial Scimitar, you could do that. If you wanted to go with that QSS first, you definitely could. It will give you the magic resist, but it won't necessarily be as impactful as the actual passive from the Maw of Malmortius. But like I said, we typically wouldn't be rushing this completely first against any mid laner, but if you definitely want the protection, just get the Hex Drinker portion first, finish it off later if you need to. But then what we're going to typically do is build into what we would call our true first item, which we've now finished, which is the Youmuu's Ghostblade, giving us attack damage, cooldown reduction, armor penetration. Activating it will also give us move speed, attack speed, which are both things we also like. So we will typically just get this first. It's a really solid item. It builds from tons of daggers or longswords or whatever, and it's pretty easy to build because of that. Also, the first two items are just impactful anyways by themselves, with the Dirk and the other half where you get either the cooldown reduction or you get the armor penetration, both very good things to have. So that is our first true item in the game. Now when it comes to boots, I think you usually have about two options here. You either go with Boots of Mobility, which is what I did, which is mostly for farming, or not farming, sorry, for roaming and split pushing, since you can get to other lanes quick to go impact them. Something I find important against a Karthus, since Karthus might try to sit back with waves, or he can impact the map globally because Karthus. So I think it's smart to be able to get around the map quick to help kill things. And then also, the other one would be the Merc Treads, which would be good against this team once again, because magic resist against Karthus is never a bad thing as he continues to scale and deal damage, because we're going to die now, unfortunately. But the Merc Treads are also really good against teams with tons of crowd control. This enemy team has some crowd control, obviously, but not like crazy amounts of like stun, stay stuck in the same spot over and over kind of crowd control, so we don't really need the Merc Treads. But we're going to go ahead and go with those Boots of Mobility. I like them for the roaming aspect. The next item we are going to be building, if you can guess it, if you want to take a chance, I'll give you just a split second. There is a pickaxe and a Vampiric Scepter. We are going to be going towards Ravenous Hydra as our next item. Ever since the Titanic Hydra got nerfed, I like Ravenous more on my full damage mid AD champions such as Talon. Previously, you could have done Titanic, but Titanic nerfs are more for, they work better for a bruiser who wants a little bit of damage, obviously, and health. Obviously, the health would be good on Talon, and in some ways you could definitely do it, but the lack of actual damage is not a ton, so going with something that brings you more raw damage, like Ravenous Hydra, it's going to be a better buy, and it'll be able to pick you up a triple kill like that. Although we don't have it finished yet. But it's also going to be a lot better, in my opinion, too, for split pushing. You basically rake, and then you just run in the middle of the minions, and you activate the Ravenous Hydra, and you get that proc, and you're just pretty much going to decimate waves. So if you want to become a really strong split pushing threat, the Ravenous Hydra is the way to go on Talon. As for the combo on Talon, I know a lot of people ask about combos on champions. What's the combo? That's really like, yeah, combos on some champions make tons of sense, but realistically, I mean, you just want to cutthroat in if you can, and then essentially blow everything on them to just annihilate them. Because while the cutthroat's active for that next 3 seconds, you get the damage amplification. You're gonna want to rake and alt and auto, or or just shadow assault and then rake them and then auto them with the Noxian diplomacy, and then obviously keep following up with autos and then proc your Ravenous Hydra and then use your Youmuus if you need to keep chasing after them. But I'm gonna be honest, everybody's gonna die instantly like that. At least the targets you should be going for, because you should be annihilating the important backline targets that deal tons of damage. So yes, that is what you would do combo-wise. Jump on their face and use everything. I know that sounds generic, but that's what you do. You just make sure you jump in with Cutthroat if you can. Although you won't always need Cutthroat right away in a fight. If you're already on top of them, obviously, I know you get the amplification, but it's not that important, honestly, in some aspects, because you can use that after they flash to close the gap and then have that amplification as you then maybe using their Noxian diplomacy on their face, since the cooldown on it is very low and you'll get a ton of damage that way. So here I'm playing Distraction for the team to get Baron, which we do, and then they're going to clean up most of the fight as I get a handful of assists, which I like. I'm okay with that. I'm definitely okay with that. But yes, so that's that in a nutshell. Let's talk about the next item that we just finished. It is, of course, the Duskbringer. I like it on Talon. Kind of makes him like a mini Zed in some cases because you get like a mini Zed ult. Also, it's just a lot of raw physical damage, and it's very good just for, once again, killing those incredibly squishy backliners, even if they're not technically that squishy, such as the Karthus who's about to come up here and get killed, because he does have a rod, so he's got more health. He's got 2,200 health, but we are going to annihilate through him. The dot will pop, but he's invulnerable. We'll just auto him or use the active on our Hydra to kill him off, and we'll simply walk away. But if you don't want to get this item, there is an option for you, and it's a good option. It's not even a bad option. We're not even done with the build either yet, technically, but we're going to keep talking about it. So the option you have here, instead of getting this, is if their team gets a little too tanky on you, you definitely would want to go instead with the Lord Dominik's Regards. Mostly because it's going to give you the Giant Slayer passive, and it's going to give you all of that armor penetration. Their Lee Sin, who I'm about to jump on in a second, he's going to show me why the armor is becoming difficult. I'm doing significant damage to him. No arguments there. Kicking me out of base was also unfortunate. I did do plenty of damage to him there for the amount of physical damage I have, but he does have some armor, and you could see how if I had some more armor penetration, that would be helpful. But he's the only tank, so I'm not too worried. I'm just going to work on finishing out the game now as, I think, Lucian runs away or something. Anyways, but the last item I'm going for is a Guardian Angel. I like it for the ability to come back to life and the amount of damage and carrying I'm doing this game. Oh, actually, no. Lee Sin just straight up kills him. But you see how I can't quite kill Lee Sin. He's got a lot of armor. So I'm just going to go for the end game because I don't think he can kill me anyways. But that is a build for Talon. Everything's in the description. If it works for you, let me know. It should. It's a pretty solid build. I've been using it for a long time now. But hope this helps, and I wish you all the very best of luck on the fields of justice.